And spawning down in the lower left-hand position, we have got the red Protoss player representing Team Evil Geniuses, none other than HuK. And his opponent down to the bottom right, the blue Zerg representing Team Liquid, none other than Snute. Snute is currently 1 game up, 5-4 in this best of 9, and that means that if he wins this next series, no, it's not 5-4, is it? What am I on about? It is 4-3.
Yes.
Yes. as I quickly correct my overlays there, my math going a bit derp.
That's perfectly all right. But yeah, he's in a good spot, I think it's safe to say, because he can win on HuK's map choice here, and if he loses, well, he has his own map choice to try and get the win. So he's in a good spot, I would say, here coming forward.
This, of course, is the second time that we have seen Outserum, as you mentioned earlier, Liaison. This was actually the second map, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And it was one where HuK really dominated.
Yeah, he kept Snute. Basically, he starved him out ultimately, keeping him on 4 bases, then taking down a few of them, and just pulling. If you remember, he went for that 4 Stargate transition in the mid to late game, pumping out 4 Void Rays at a time, up in the upper teens as far as his Void Ray count at some points, and really going from side to side, back and forth, taking down just hatcheries here and there, and really making life miserable for Snute.
Now, Snute this game is going to be opening up with that spawning pool first, whereas HuK going for a very greedy, a very brave play in the Nexus first, looking to get a good little edge. And there's always something to be said. If you go for a risky build, you're going to be potentially opening yourself up to good advantage, but also risking a lot of hurt. If he can make it work for himself though, obviously that little advantage could be what he needs in order to level out this series.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 4th map now that we've seen, or 4th game that we've seen HuK go for the Nexus first. It's just something that I feel like if you lose to a 7 pool on Alter Zine, then you just kind of tip your cap and move on to the, like, you know what I mean? It's such a low percentage chance, and a player like Snute is never, I think, going to put himself in a position where luck is going to have that much of an impact on whether or not he wins a game. So, you know, it may be risky on a map like this, though, where both of your bases are so easily protected by that front ramp at your main. Not too difficult to see HuK going for that.
So, in terms of what Snute's doing at the moment, he's just zoning out this probe, making sure that not too much scouting information comes through. Quite importantly, HuK wasn't able to scout the 3rd hatchery getting started yet, so he can't 100% confirm the timing of that, and it was actually relatively early. It came at 4 minutes, so not exceptionally soon, but generally around the time you'd want up against a Nexus first. Unfortunately for Snute, he can't really confirm if it was a Nexus first or not, because his Overlord didn't actually scout in HuK's direction first.
Yeah, but I think also either he can assume it, or, you know, the fact of the matter is probably that whether it's a Nexus first or just a gateway into a Nexus, or even a Forge, which he knows now it is not, but it's negligible, really. He's doing his build. It's the build he's opened up with for, well, quite a few maps in a row now, since going for those couple of consecutive early pools on the, I believe it was the 3rd and the 4th map that we saw today.
So in terms of strategy from HuK, I'm going to throw over to you here, Liaison, because you're remembering this game from the first time around a bit better than I am, I think. What was it that HuK went for, and how was he able to be so dominating against Snute there?
Well, he went for, as he lays down a Forge here, so our first kind of deviation from him as far as what he's been doing, but he went for, I believe it was that 4-gate aggression, and he was able to take down the 3rd base and really take a 3rd base behind it himself. He was on 3 bases to the 2 of his opponent, and he, later on, what we saw was Snute immediately get some roaches out, go for that swarm host transition that was so successful for him on Frost, but what he couldn't quite counteract was HuK's wonderfully, I thought wonderfully creative 4 Stargate transition into those mass void rays. So HuK did a great job playing to the map. I think air is really strong on a map this large, and I thought he did a great job of playing to that, and we'll see if he does kind of play to that transition again. He's getting his Roach Warren down, anticipating almost that either that push again or trying to get this cancel on this 3rd base. We'll see as these lings do come on over, timing up with speed finishing.
It's really important to note that Actually, Snute has had some success being very aggressive up against HuK, specifically forcing a cancel on this third base. Ooh, this is actually really smart. HuK has hallucinated up a Void right now. Is Snute going to think this is real?
You know, why wouldn't he, to tell you the truth? But he is droning behind this, so it doesn't seem too real to him at the moment, but he's getting a lot of lings as well on the map right now. The Twilight Council is finishing, and a lot more gateways coming down here for HuK. He kind of knows he needs to start getting units out here. I wonder if he's going to go for like a +2 blink timing off of 3 bases now as that Twilight Council does finish. But these Speedlings are coming in towards this third base. They're going to get pushed away by a cannon, a couple Zealots in that Mothership core, but Snute continues to drone up. I really wonder if it is going to be that blink coming out on that Twilight Council.
It could be a charge coming down. Okay, that is quite surprising, actually. This is an interesting build coming out here from HuK. A deviation from his previous playstyle. I don't think he's actually throwing this out any map yet tonight. Could catch Snute off guard, who's currently getting down his Roach speed upgrade and those double evolution chambers. Not doing anything too crazy over on Snute's side. He's just happily droning up and just casually strolling into the mid game.
Yeah, he's getting his double evolution chambers quite quickly here as well. So we're seeing a couple of major differences kind of from these two players. Snute has kind of neglected upgrades over the course of this series, and now he is back on track with that. He's getting his double evolution chambers finished up. And HuK, someone who we've seen go for gateway pressure into air or into Colossi, completely changing it up, getting his Templar archives down and charge as well as +2.
Waiting to see now whether HuK does decide to try and force back these lings. He knows they're there at the moment, so just happy to leave them for the time being, not getting too aggressive, just giving a little prod. Behind this Snute, now adding in more Roach production. He's got the 1-1 melee upgrades coming down though, and that's quite interesting.
Yeah, you know, I actually kind of like this from him. He's showing some Roaches, I think, and then he's going to go into Speedlings, and I wonder if we're going to see just a super fast tech into Ultras possibly coming out from him here. No Infestation Pit or anything down just yet, but it's a possibility. We've seen such a difference here now in this game from these two players. It's a little bit shocking, but all of these lings are coming in to try and deal with the Zealots, and well, quite frankly, don't know if they want to deal with +2 Zealots, which is what they will be in about 60 seconds.
Well, there's not really many there as of yet. One getting taken down. The Force Fields were quite good, but the Archon gets caught. The Sentries have no way to escape. The second Archon busy trying to back away, but it's getting chased down pretty damn pronto. That was not a position that HuK wanted to take the engagement. The second Archon will now fall, and that is a massive victory for the Liquid Zerg.
There are 11 Zealots at the top of the map looking for a potential 4th base, literally sitting under an Overlord. 16 more Roaches on the way as well. And now these Zealots are going to come forward. It's going to force the Roaches back. Some Lings coming as well. These 13 Roaches that come out should be able to deal with this. But again, Zealots with charge +2 done, they are going to shred a lot of this army here. And any damage they get done in the worker lines as well, which is what they're targeting now. Really nice job there from HuK in that regard. Well, that's just an added bonus.
The Roaches should be able to clean this up, but in total, 4 workers have been killed. I question if that was substantial enough to really warrant the amount of investment here. Snute is still ahead as far as I'm concerned. This Roach composition very, very strong. The other difficulty for HuK as it stands is that generally, obviously, any kind of charged Archon style composition is going to be weaker in the late game than if you just tech straight up into, say, Colossus or something. So, something to consider. Snute, though, getting a bit more aggressive across the map. He's still pumping out a lot of Roaches. Despite going for the 1-1 melee upgrades, he has got +1 missile attack now on its way.
Yeah, and those, in regards to those Zealots, I think he had them made for that push, but then when he lost the few Zealots, the Sentries, and the Archons, he didn't really have any use for them, so he had to just try something, didn't end up working. But now he's switched over. He's going for those Roaches. He's getting the super fast Hive behind this as well. And again, 3 Immortals with this army here for HuK. He's got to be feeling at least somewhat safe here. The Mothership Core has more than enough energy for an overcharge. And, well, the question's going to kind of be here for Snute is, can he pressure despite having this huge army advantage, but not really a good engagement angle?
Well, there isn't a good engagement angle. The best he could hope for is to try and cancel this 4th base. Unfortunately for Snute, he isn't aware of it yet. May go up to check though, positioning his army up there, and indeed does go round. Sees it with 1 Ling, there isn't much HuK can do to save that. Instantly cancels it, doesn't want to take the risk. It was a gamble taking it, but only losing 100 minerals, it's a gamble that he's going to be very willing to take. Hive now done though for Snute, so he's continuing on in his tech path. He's adding in a lot more Hydralisks, but engagement coming down now, Liaison.
Yes, 5 seconds till blink is done. The roaches come on in the force fields, section them back. A couple get caught and roasted quickly by those powerful guns of the Immortals. And, well, now there are 4 Immortals with this army here. Pretty good number, you've got to think. And +3 weapons is finishing already for HuK, which is just going to be so strong against 1-1 for these roaches. And with blink on these stalkers, they can basically pick away at these roaches and kind of blink back if they need to. The Zealot warping down at the 3rd base. Again, that warp prism play from HuK so prominent on this map. And, well, so far Snute's done a good job defending it, as he has for most of this series.
Couple of stalkers having to blink away there as the roaches come charging through the center of the map. HuK again attempting to take that 4th Nexus, but an engagement could be coming down. Remember, Storm is finished. There's a decent number of High Templar. Hit off a good Storm there. Doesn't get that much damage, but certainly squishes up these roaches.
Yeah, and HuK looking to just kind of entice this army to attack. I don't think this is an engagement that Snute wants to take, and well, he's forcing out a couple of storms, pretty decent ones actually, onto the front part of that roach army. Behind this though, Enduring Locusts coming, Swarm Host starting. It's a familiar story here from our Zerg from Team Liquid, but again, really nice engagement from HuK. He blinks forward. He thinks he's got enough to deal with this. The Immortals on the top side just demolishing this roach army. Hydra's trying to pick away at them. A really good storm comes down, cleaning up the remainder of this force. HuK ahead in supply, ahead in army supply. 62 links in production. Are those really going to be the answer against what HuK has marching across the map?
Well, the 62 lings don't need to be an answer for Snute as so much a time grab. He wants to get the Swarm Hosts out, because while there is Storm, there isn't any Colossi, so the Locusts could be a right pain for HuK long term. But that's only if the Swarm Host count starts rising into kind of critical numbers. But it's a long way from that at the moment. For the time being, there's only 6 on the field, 7 more about to pop out. These lings will catch a couple of Stalkers, get this around. A nice amount of damage coming down here. Will get a couple of good kills, but they blink away. The majority saved, and Snute still under pressure.
And he's going to need to keep this 4th base alive. It's so important to him because of the gas that it brings in and allowing him to get his Swarm Host count up. He's at 13 right now, 5 on the way, and it seems like HuK trying to push in before that Swarm Host count gets too high, forces the Unburrow, pushes on forward towards that all-important 4th base. He knows how vital it is to Snute and that he's going to have to engage if he wants to try to save it. It looks like, yeah, these lings are trying to bait parts of the army back. The Immortals, though, eyes on one prize, and that is the hatchery. A storm scares away the lings. The Immortals will turn around and, well, one of them actually will just blast down the rest of that, and down it goes. So Snute down on 3 bases, looking for a huge counterattack towards that 4th base. There's a couple cannons and a mothership core ripe for photon overcharge in 2 seconds. Don't know if it'll be enough. There's no recall now for this army, which is a little bit frustrating, but all those zealots that warp in there, holy cow, those should go quite a long way to help them out.
They are +3 zealots as well, up against the 2/2 lings, which means they will get 2-shotted. The roaches are a bit more beefy, but still not numerous enough to really add much of a problem there. The army for HuK is now not as large as Snute's, and obviously not equipped ideally to deal with these Swarm Hosts. But HuK has denied that 4th base of Snute yet again, while keeping his own. It's good enough for a Protoss player being on equal bases, let alone a base up. Snute needs to make sure this 4th dies, and it dies quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, HuK his army will get better quite quickly here, as a lot of cannons going down. 5 of them just finishing up as these roaches and lings stream on forward. Swarm Host as well. HuK once again takes down that 4th base, but his army, I mean, we could see a kind of a funky base trade here. A wandering Colossus starts to get nibbled away by some locusts. The roaches will come in and finish the deal. HuK warping in the main, warping in the natural of Snute as well, and pushing forward, and I think we've got ourselves a base trade on our hands.
This, of course, is potentially the chance for Snute to win this series. He's at 4 games, or 4 wins to 3. If he wins this, he does take the best of 9. But HuK, he's doing a lot to try and stop this. The main base is going to be hard to siege up with these roaches. The sentry is going to be able to force field off that ram pretty much indefinitely. Add in the natural base, that hatchery's falling now to the Zealots. The main is taking critical amounts of damage, and HuK still has a very sizable army force. Yes, his third is about to fall. A great couple of abducts. Grab those Colossi. Things are getting very, very close here. Liaison, who's going to take this base race?
I like HuK's positioning here, to tell you the truth, Madals. The map, the nature of the map is so valuable for him because of that one force field to block the ramp into his main and his natural simultaneously. It's a huge advantage. Even if he loses that base over on the left, which he still has 5 cannons at, every little bit helps as far as trading there. He's got 5 Immortals walking across the map, some Templar with Storm ready to go as well, and he's still producing 2 Colossi at a time. A second one joins the fray, a third one coming out relatively soon here, and I mean, he's up in supply. He's up about 30 army supply, about 35 workers here, and Snoot's even pulled drones all the way over to his swarm host to try and help, but he's in trouble.
Snoot, he doesn't have any bank, he doesn't have any production, he's lost all of his hatcheries now. It's just the army that's standing. Even if HuK loses this 4th base, remember, he has got a decent-ish bank. He's still able to produce 2 Colossi at a time that is going to significantly help dealing with these swarm hosts. It's a very interesting situation, and HuK's really only hope at this stage is to turtle up around this hatchery that he's built just outside of the 3rd base location of HuK and hope it doesn't die.
Yeah, but there's just, honestly, there's no way, right? I mean, he's producing 2 Colossi at a time. Yeah, he warps in Zealots. GG is called. HuK takes game number 8, and I guess everything we hoped and more here. A best of 9 show match going to game number 9.